Welcome to Global Rhythms Live, World Music and Dance Digital Concert Series, presented by Ensemble Topaz.
Hi everyone, it's with great joy that we present to you today the third edition of Global Rhythms Live World Music and Dance Digital Concert, where we feature diverse performances by artists practicing different genres of world music, dance, and performance traditions from around the world. I am Paromita, co-artistic director and choreographer of Ensemble Topaz, a Toronto-based integrated music and dance ensemble, and it's my great joy and honor, along with Mike Enkelwitz, to present to you this week's edition of Global Rhythms. Last week we presented some incredible artists from across Toronto, Berlin in Germany, and the United States, performing Manouche jazz, Hindustani classical music, and contemporary Yiddish dance. Today we have the honor of presenting artists from the cities of Montreal and Toronto in Canada and Prague in the Czech Republic. Joining me in Studio Topaz is Mike Enkelwitz, musician, composer, and music director for Ensemble Topaz, as well as several other music projects, and he's also a faculty member at the Royal Conservatory of Music in Toronto, and he's also the managing technical director for Global Rhythms.
Thank you, Paromita, and thank everybody so much for joining us today. To us, in many ways, this concert series keeps alive our tradition as performing artists of the live art forms, the ability to perform to an audience directly, which is so often a part of our everyday lives as artists. We started this series to be able to continue to perform for our audiences, but also to share a bit of our artistic journeys of these incredible artists that we are honored to present. Please donate to support our artists. Our GoFundMe page link is displayed on the top of our screen, as well as on our Facebook page. Your support is what keeps the artists going at this time. Our first performers today are Ihtimanska of Montreal. Ihtimanska, Ariane, Morin, and Yoni Kaston are a creative duo of saxophone and accordion from Montreal, interpreting Bulgarian and Turkish music, folk, and urban. The duo proposes personal takes on odd rhythms, modal improvisations, and innovative arrangements. This is playing together for over a decade. Ariane Morin and Yoni Kaston have developed a sensitive interplay and notable musical complicity.
Thank you. That was absolutely beautiful. Just a quick question. Can you tell us a little bit about the song that you just played? It was absolutely beautiful.
That's called Ihtimanska. It's actually like those kind of piece that they will play for the long Wowling Dervishes ceremonies. And this is like these very long ceremonies with a lot of singing act, and at the end, it's really like the last piece at the end of this ceremony. So like this is usually in 10/8, and this last section is in 6/8, and it shows a kind of ecstasy while you're dancing, finally reaching what you picked, what the Wowling Dervishes were dancing for the last hours or so during those ceremonies. And that's a tune that I learned with my teacher in Istanbul, and Yoni came up with those beautiful chords.
Beautiful. Amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about how the both of you started playing together? Yeah, I feel like there's an interesting and beautiful story there, and we'd love to hear about it.
So we met originally in a klezmer jam that I was hosting. Um, Ariane, I guess, had been involved with the klezmer community from one angle, and I had been with the other angle, and we finally kind of met up in that context. And over the years, both of us were really interested in different Eastern European musics, and specifically Moldavian and Bulgarian music, and also, of course, in Turkish music. And that's sort of from my family background, Turkish, and then it's been an interest for Ariane. So over the years, we've done different projects together. We had a band together, a trio called Masapan for a while, and then yeah, it's been a little while since we got together, the three of us, but and then the two of us have been exploring this repertoire, sort of more. Uh, well, it's a vast repertoire once we consider two countries, Bulgaria and Turkey, and all the different regional and folkloric and classical musics of those two countries. But we've been sort of exploring how, with these very non-traditional instruments, that we can kind of come up with something interesting to do. And yeah, so that's been our little voyage together.
Fantastic. And did you study together in Turkey at any point?
I mean, for myself, I'm the one who mostly went to Turkey. I went the first time in 2012 for 3 months. And I came back in 2016 for 3 months as well, both times doing with different teacher, um, including Okan? No, Okan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Okan Czech Mark that Mike gave me his contact during my last trip. And Yoni came to join me on the last trip for 2 weeks, and we got to have the same teacher as me during those 2 weeks a little bit. And yeah, and I mean, both time when I came back with this bunch of songs that I learned from my teachers that I will just show to Yoni, and we will work with them together.
That's some great stuff, guys. Can you tell us a little bit about the next song that you guys are going to play for us?
Yoni been mentioning that we play Turkish and Bulgarian music. So the next one is a Bulgarian song, but it's actually those very nice folkloric Bulgarian songs that are usually sung in the village by the women choral. So like an ensemble of voice by women. And actually, this is a beautiful song that we kind of fell in love with all those intricate harmonies and adapted on saxophone and accordion. And I like with the saxophone trying to imitate this gaida sound a little bit with the ornaments. So it's a nice song about love, of course, and love lost and stuff like that. It's a beautiful song.
And it's called Brada Moma Ruja Tsvete, which means something along the lines of a girl among the red flowers. My Bulgarian is more limited than one would hope it should be after all these years. That's the song.
And of course we did our little touch of Ihtimanska. We like infuse some creative arrangement into it. So there's a tiny bit of improvisation in the middle. And this is it.
Great, thank you. We look so forward to hearing it.
All right.
Oh.
A beautiful song, guys. And we'd like to ask you one more question before you go. Can you tell us where the name Ihtimanska comes from?
Ihtimanska is actually most of the piece from the Balkan and Turkey, and like in those kind of tradition, they carry the name of the village where they come from. And Ihtimanska Kopanica is like it's mean like it's a Kopanica, which is 11 piece from that village, and because it's finished by A, it means like a woman dance, so it means like woman dance from Ihtiman. And Ihtiman is like this little village in Bulgaria, and it's kind of resume our interest in the Turkish Bulgarian music around those region and stuff. And,
yeah, it's kind of tying together the Turkish and the Bulgarian because it's sort of in the crossroad in the Thracian region.
And also I just like the name, the like when we choose name for bands or things, I like the sonority of the name. It's bring something, it's bring question as this one. So.
And that was Ihtimanska, the duo of Ariane Morin and Yoni Kaston, coming to us from Montreal. If you enjoyed their performance, please visit the GoFundMe page to support them and the rest of the artists performing on Global Rhythms. You can also support them and any of the musicians performing today by buying their music. This is most effective through sites like Bandcamp, where you can buy CDs and downloads that will get more of their purchase price to the artist. Coming up next, our second performer in today's concert is Ensemble Topaz's co-director, Paromita. Paromita holds a PhD in dance studies from York University and currently works as a full-time dance artist with a base in Toronto, while she also travels internationally and throughout Canada. She's originally from India and trained in classical Indian dance from a young age. Paromita's journey with several diverse world dance forms began in Toronto when she was studying at York University Dance Department. She's performed in Canada, the United States, India, Netherlands, and the Czech Republic, and she's currently holding a grant from the Ontario Arts Council for professional development in Iranian dance. So here is Paromita. Thank you, Paromita, for that beautiful dance. We just want to ask you, what was your vision behind this particular dance and its creation?
I think part of that is just where I'm currently at in my artistic journey right now. As you mentioned earlier, I did grow up in India doing only classical Indian dance, but once I moved to Toronto and became part of the Toronto dance community and professional dance scene, I found that there were many genres of dance that held my interest. And one of them was Iranian dances. And this particular dance is themed on the simorgh. This is a bird, I guess a bird-like creature from ancient Persian mythology that makes its way into many forms of Persian art and also Ferdowsi's Shahnameh and many legends. And in the legends, this bird has copper wings, and so that's why I was working with that set of wings. I was actually first inspired by the wings themselves, and then I knew that I wanted to create something based on a mythological idea, and so that's how this piece was born. And I enjoy working with props. It's something we don't do much in classical Indian dance. We use our hands primarily for hand gesture and storytelling through hand gestures. So to be able to work with something to express that's beyond the body, that's beyond hands, was very new and refreshing for me. And so that was also part of what inspired this piece and also my current trajectory.
Great, great.
And I guess with that, we'll move on to our next performer, whom we're very excited to present today, Brenna MacCrimmon. Learning, performing, and teaching music of Turkey and Eastern Europe since the 1980s, Brenna MacCrimmon continues to explore, inspire, within and without the confines of traditions she loves. She performs in Toronto with two ensembles that focus on Turkish and Eastern European repertoire, Vocal Quartet Turquoise and the trio Zephyr. She also occasionally performs with pianist Bill Westcott as they delve into early blues and Tin Pan Alley material. She teaches ukulele in Toronto and at the Halliburton School for the Arts, and has recorded and performed with several artists in Toronto, Germany, as well as Turkey. So we're truly honored to have her here with us, and also we will hear so many amazing stories of her journey throughout. So yes, we look forward.
Şemsiyemin ucu kare, şemsiyemin ucu kare, yokmuş o derdime çare, yokmuş o derdime çare. O yar güzel, ben biçare. O yar güzel, ben biçare. Çaresiz dertlere düştüm, bir vefasız ellere düştüm. Şemsiyemin ucu baston, şemsiyemin ucu baston. Söyle canım, kimdir dostum? Söyle canım, kimdir dostum? Öldürmeye var mı kastın? Öldürmeye var mı vefasız ellere düştüm. Ocak ocak kum eşerim, ocak ocak kum eşerim, sensin benim yar şekerim, sensin benim yar şekerim. Bilmez misin ne çekerim, bilmez misin ne çekerim, çektiklerim yar elinden, şivek yarın o dilinden. Şemsiyenin ucu kare, şemsiyenin ucu kare, yok şu derdime çare, yok şu derdime çare. And it's a sad song, really. What can I say? It's one of a handful of what I call the rainy day songs, and I learned that one from sheet music. But so my interpretation of it is very much just imagining what the music would sound like and working with friends to try and tease out various elements of it. But it's very nice for me to know that, or learn over the years, that a lot of my Istanbul friends really like that because they feel it captures the sense of being in a city street on a rainy day and things not going so well, you know, wishing that you could be with the one that you want to be with and you're not. The old unrequited love stories. The instrument is a Macedonian tambura, so this is not technically a Turkish instrument. But I like putting it together with the Turkish songs that I know from Macedonia, just because I kind of feel like it lends itself in a kind of a way. It's usually tuned in either a fourth or a fifth, and so that allows you some nice sort of basic accompaniment spaces, and doesn't really allow for, you know, if you use all the frets, it doesn't allow for expressing Turkish makam, but a lot of the music from the Balkans, the makam can be a little bit smoothed out. So anyway, it works and I have fun with it, and it's relatively portable and easy to tune.
Great. Yeah, so we're curious, how did you start on this journey with Turkish music and Turkish songs? How did you start on, on this pathway?
It's kind of a long and convoluted story. I will say that it started many, many years ago, more than I want to admit, maybe, back in the 1980s. And I was listening to music from all over the world, basically, you know, vinyl records. And I heard music from Turkey and the Balkans, and I thought, that's really interesting. I want to learn more about that. And so basically, that's where it began. It began from hearing recordings of it and wanting to just learn more. And sort of went from, well, I don't want to just listen to it. I want to try and play it too. So that led me to working with a Turkish folklore group here in Toronto. At the time, they were so generous and so lovely with me. and then slowly going to Turkey and learning in Turkey, and then, coming back here and working with people who have Turkish background here. And, just, it's a sort of a snowball rolling downhill. So, and anytime I felt like I needed to go deeper, I'm very fortunate. I've been able to go and live in Turkey. The first time I went, I spent a year, which was amazing. And then the second time I went, I thought, I'll go for 6 months to a year, and it ended up being 5 years. So, I just feel very fortunate that I've been able to have that time and be there and always work with incredibly generous people, whatever the genre.
And what was it like to learn to sing in a different language? Because I guess you were probably speaking a bit of Turkish by the time you went to Turkey the first time?
I tried to learn a little bit of Turkish before I went, because it's very obvious that, especially if you're going to sing a language, you at least need to know how it works. Like, even if you can't really, eventually you have to figure out how you're going to express yourself in another language, whether it's, and the music and words do go together. Yeah, but the first time I went, I'd sort of learned from a book. I knew how to, I took a course at university, and I knew how to parse a sentence in the newspaper, but I couldn't actually speak. And when people spoke to me, it was sort of like, So it was definitely a crash course of just practical language and, dialects. And there's an incredible range of dialects. So, a lot of that took a little bit of time to sort out. But they really came hand in hand. I mean, the desire to learn the music and do a halfway decent job of singing it just was basically pretty clear to me that you actually have to learn a little bit about how to speak it. And I do have to say, it's a beautiful language. There's some really, it's a very, the way it addresses the vowels and everything, it's a very beautiful language. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Well, we'd love to get back to that, but first we'd love to hear another song. So if you could play something, you can tell us a little bit about what it is, or you can just play it for us and just let the music speak for itself.
I'll do a little preface. I think yeah. So this is a song is from Bulgaria, but again in the Turkish language, and I learned this through my friend Muammer Ketencalu. So I mean, I could spend the whole time talking about all the wonderful people and my teachers and fellow musicians that I've been able to work with. But anyway, so this is for my friend Muammer and my friend Sumru, and this is from Bulgaria. Yeah. Evlerine vara gele usandım, evlerine vara gele usandım, ayağıma diken batı gül sandım, gül sandım aman, ayağıma diken batı gül sandım, gül sandım aman. Evlerine vardım ama gülmedim. Evlerine vardım ama gülmedim. Çok dostlarım düşman imiş bilmedim. Bilmedim ama. Çok dostlarım düşman imiş bilmedim. Bilmedim ama. Evlerinin önü gülle dikendir. Evlerinin önü gülle dikendir. Gül kıymeti bilen sevda çekendir. Oh, çekendir aman. Gül kıymeti bilen sevda çekendir. Oh, çekendir aman. Evlerine vardım ama yoruldum. Evlerine vardım ama yoruldum. İnan artık sana candan vuruldum. Oh, vuruldum aman. İnan artık sana candan vuruldum. Oh, vuruldum aman.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I guess we have a few more. Just we'd love to hear a little bit more about some moments in your journey. So,
Yeah, you mentioned Muammar Katenjalu, your teacher for that last song. You've also studied with people like Selim Sesler. What did you find that you gained and you learned the most from these masters of their music, but also people who played instruments primarily as opposed to singers?
Well, I mean, so for example, working with Selim, I mean, I basically approached him and said, I want to sing these songs. I need somebody to accompany them. And that was a learning process, right? I mean, I had to learn how to work with a master musician like Selim and also a master within his culture, so, and how does that culture work? And we actually learned a few things from each other, but which I think is also really interesting. But I got to also work with like some really, really fantastic Turkish classical musicians and, some traditional, but maybe not so well known as Muammar musicians who are Rumeli background and that sort of thing. Every time, I mean, it's humbling. Every time you go in and every time you sit down with someone, you know how much you recognize how much you don't know. I think too, many times people told me, especially the classical musicians, but some of the traditional musicians as well would say things to me along the lines of, it's really amazing that you're coming from another country, from another culture to learn our music when so many people here don't even pay attention to it. You're giving value and credit to something, and they thank me for doing that, which was like, no, I thank you. No, you thank me. So there was a lot of, I want to say, mutual gratitude going on in these kinds of things. And getting to your more pointed question about what's it like, I'm a singer working with a very great clarinet player. And what it really becomes is about the interplay between those two things. And, we would definitely, I'd love to dig out some of those old lesson or, session recordings or whatever. But a lot of times it would come down to nuance. And, I'd be singing this song and he would sort of go, yeah, And then I'd hit something and he'd go, ah. And sometimes he couldn't articulate exactly what it was that I had just done that he liked. So it was kind of a process of going back and forth. And, I would give him something and then it would sort of be, yeah, no, or, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to, without talking for an hour. But basically, yeah, there was a lot of, give and take going back and forth.
That's amazing. It's I think the learning journey itself is just such a rich one. Yeah.
So
With all
we're
my
all
teachers, sorry, interrupt you. With all my teachers, I was just thinking about that, and with whether it was Selim or Rehan Salmasabash or uh, Hayri Usta, like these lovely people that I got to sit down and work with. It's not just about sitting down and having a lesson either. It would be about spending time together, and it's not this formal thing. Sometimes we would sit together for hours and have meals together, and uh, go out shopping. Sometimes I would show up to my teacher's house, and it would be, okay, we got to go grocery shopping. Okay, I'm carrying the bags. So it's not just about the lesson in music. It's also about how the whole, how to be in the society, I suppose, as well too, and just the incredible generosity. I have to just say that again, the incredible generosity they experienced with, not just sharing their knowledge of music and encouraging me and helping me, but also just like, yeah, and let's eat together and let's do this together and that together. And those are very special things that, yeah, I feel very fortunate I've been able to.
all right, and we have one more question. We've seen some of your work with Baba Zula, and we just want to know what it's like to transition, from working with the more traditional and classical musicians that you studied with and performed with, to working with this psychedelic rock band, working in Turkey, in Istanbul.
Yeah, well, I guess in some ways it's like bringing together two sides of me. I mean, we are all complex people, and I mean, I didn't just grow up listening to folk music. I grew up listening to a lot of different things before I stumbled into folk music, and working with those guys was really a lot of fun. It pushed me, it challenged me. Sometimes we would do things that would force me so far out of my comfort zone, and I think it's really good as an artist to have that happen to you. Whether your ultimately you go back to doing your more traditional thing, that experience of being in this other environment and taking what you know and feel and try to adapt it to something completely different. And that was an incredible learning experience for me, and very loud sometimes. I mean, I got special earplugs just to work with them, but also, incredibly rewarding and a lot of fun and also being able to discover things and as well through that experience. So yeah, I mean, one night you can be at a köfte, at a meatball a meatball restaurant listening to your Turkish Roman buddies do a fussle, and then the next night you can be at a raucous club in Beyoğlu sitting in with a Turkish psychedelic rock band. It's a pretty unique position to be in.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We'd love to hear one more song, if you can play one, please.
Yep, I'm going to do one more. I get asked to do this song a lot. I'm going to dig out the little ukulele here. This is a song that I learned from my teachers, Reha and Selma Sabash. And when the long story is I tried to figure out how to play some Turkish songs on ukulele, and this one kind of fit. Bent the makam a little bit to accommodate it with this instrument, but yeah, it's just been a very very touching song to me personally, and also that many people, Turkish people, like the way I did it. So I'm going to do it now. It's called Yağmur Yağ Taş Üstüne. I want to thank you guys for inviting me and letting me natter on.
Thank you for being here.
It's our honor. Thank you for joining us.
And to any of my Turkish friends, bütün Türk dostlarım, sevgiler, saygılar. And we'll be together again. Yağmur yağar taş üstüne, ince kalem kaş üstüne, selam gelir baş üstüne. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Yağmur yağar oradan buradan, üstümüze ipek yorgan, öpeceksin işte buradan. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Yağmur yağar taş üstüne, ince kalem kaş üstüne, selam gelir baş üstüne. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Yağmur yağar oradan buradan, üstümüze telli yorgan, seveceksin işte buradan. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Yağmur yağar çamur olur, baklavalar hamur olur, güzel kızlar gelin olur. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli, Mevlam kulu sevdim seni. Vay deli deli kuş deli deli vay.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank you for sticking with us. Just a little technical glitch there. Thank you to Brenna MacCrimmon. Thank you so much. And to all of our donors who have donated on the GoFundMe page. It's still up. You can still go and donate. Please help our artists. For some of these artists, this is their primary source of income. And nowadays, there are no performances. So please help them. Please go to the donation page. And we want to thank Lenka Lichtenberg, who a wonderful singer. She's going to be with us next week on Global Rhythms. She introduced us 5 years ago to Tomas Reindl, who is our next performer. Tomas comes to us from Prague, and we had a chance to perform with him in Prague and Děčín, Czech Republic. So Tomas is a composer, a multi-instrumentalist, and tabla player from Prague. In his music, he often crosses genre boundaries, drawing inspiration from ancient musical traditions of both East and West, while at the same time taking advantage of contemporary approaches and music technology. He completed his master's degree in composition at the Academy of Performing Arts in Prague, and since 1998 he devoted himself to studying Indian classical music and the tabla under the guidance of tabla maestro Sanju Sahai. Tomas performs regularly with his solo project Omnion, as well as collaborating with other artists like Lenka Lichtenberg, Amit Chatterjee, and Berg Orchestra. He is also currently an instructor of ethnomusicology at the music faculty of Prague Academy of Performing Arts. His track Triambakam, which you're going to hear today, from the new album Omnion 2, was just nominated for an Independent Music Awards 2020 in the World Beat Song category. Here he is, Tomas Reindl, Omnion.
So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I will start this micro concert with the tune called Frozen Tabla. I use a special magic ring for manipulating the tabla sound. Padigina tom ta.
Wow, what an amazing piece. It's so interesting to see that fusion of, tabla and all these other electronic things. And welcome, Tomas, to the Global Rhythms Live. This is our third edition, and we're so glad we could have you coming to us all the way from Prague, Czech Republic.
Hello, Merry greetings to you too.
Tell all the people here, how you got interested in the tabla and in Indian music.
Yeah, so I was firstly I was a drummer. I played rock music and then also jazz music, and I became interested more in kind of world music fusions, and then I discovered fusions of jazz and with Indian music and John McLaughlin and Shakti and Trill Gurtu. And then I came to tabla sound. I was completely amazed by this instrument. And then shortly after that, I met my friend in Plzeň, where on that time in Czech Republic, almost nobody played tabla, or maybe one person probably. And I met my friend who just started to play sitar, and he told me, yes, I have a pair of tabla home, so we can borrow it. So I was completely happy. So that was the beginning, and then I met my friend Ivana, who is a Kathak dancer, and she suggested to go to India with her and her friends, and we went to Varanasi. So there I took some lessons, and so that was the first real meeting with Indian culture. And then after several years, I found my real tabla teacher in London. It's Sanju Sahai, one of the best masters. Is a head of Benares Gharana style of playing today. So it was another level of education.
All these other instruments that you play during your performances and your sets, how did you study them? Are you sort of self-taught for a lot of them? Have you been playing a long time?
Yeah, I'm basic thing is that I was born in a music family, so my mother is a piano and organ player. My father is not professional musician, but he has a trumpet, for example. And then I met my uncle. He introduced me into saxophone and clarinet things. So, but finally I started to love drums. So I became the drummer basically, but still I played different instruments. And for example, clarinet I studied in a music school when I was a child, but then I put it aside for some time. I didn't like the clarinet sound so much, but after 15 years, I found my way from different perspective. I started to like kind of folkloristic feel, or this kind of rough, non-classical approach. Also, I played didgeridoo in my performances, but one time I found that I'm also able to play trombone, because this is very similar mouth position, mouth work.
So, Tomas, can you tell us about this next piece that you're going to perform for us?
Okay, so next piece is based on traditional Indian mantra. It's quite well known in the whole world. It's called Trayambakam. It's a mantra against the fear of death.
Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhi Pushtivardhana Urvarukamiva Bandhana Mrityurmukshiyamamritaha Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhi Pushtivardhana Urvarukamiva Bandhana Mrityurmukshiyamamritaha Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhi
při koncentraci. Cítil jsem, že stojím v prostoru mimo svět a že se dívám na světy, které vířily okolo mne. Najednou se vše zjasnilo, vše svítilo. Moje tělo bylo jediné světlo a jenom teninká slupka dělila mne od světa a světla kolem mne. Uprostřed prsou byla větší záře a najednou tam zasvítlo intenzivní světlo, bílé a čisté. Vše se ve mně proměnilo v záři. A já tou září vnímal jsem všechny možné démony a hrůzy světa. Jmenuji se Vrtiku. Vrtil jsem kola, která mne svírala. Jsem fotografem. Fotografoval jsem světlem. Píši do duše lidem světlem poznání.
So thank you so much to Tomas Reindl from Prague, Czech Republic. There's an incredible range to his work. As Mike mentioned earlier, we had the opportunity to meet him in Prague 5 years ago when we were all working with Lenka Lichtenberg for her projects. And and once again, she's another artist who we'll be having on the show in the upcoming week. So please stay tuned. And thank you all to all of our artists and to all of the viewers who joined us today. We hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Global Rhythms Live World Music and Dance Digital Concert, streamed live from our living room as well as the living rooms of our artists. Please support our artists by visiting the GoFundMe page and making a donation. And in the upcoming weeks, we will continue to feature artists from across the world performing traditional and innovative artistic material. Please stay updated by following our Facebook page as well as Instagram at Ensemble Topaz.